And welcome in to the Michigan football postgame live show. In the aftermath of the Michigan 10-point, 28-18 win over Arkansas State, we're ready to talk about it with you. I say with you because you can use that feedback during this show. We'll put that up on the screen and we'll respond to it. Any of your questions, comments, concerns that you saw with the Wolverines as they wrap up their non-conference portion of their schedule, week 3, and now they look ahead to USC, who's coming in 3:30 this Saturday to kick off the Big Ten season for the Maize and Blue. Today was a game that was not quite the boost that you were looking for if you were a Michigan fan that would alleviate all of your concerns, maybe even some of your concerns. There were some things that I think are good that you can think, hey, if they can continue to do this, maybe they have found something. But it's really going to come down to, after what you saw last week against Texas, seeing what Michigan is going to be able to do against USC. And today's game was very sloppy by Michigan. And really what you do is you have a hard time if you're trying to evaluate this team. The hard part evaluating it, whether you're at the game or watching it on TV or whatever, is that you have the gold standard of what it looks like to be a national champion and an undefeated team with the coaching staff all the way down. And this thing has really been turned over quite a bit. And we all know about how many starters and guys that went to the NFL, players and coaches. And it's such a stark contrast of where Michigan was at last year. They were so good. They had such great leadership. And it does take time to develop as a team with an offensive line, with a new quarterback, with all of these new coaches. And so that's going to be that was always going to be a tough part for them. But when you look at it, and last year, Michigan was so good at not committing penalties, at getting turnovers and not turning it over themselves. And, you know, this team, and look, you can chalk it up to missed assignments, or the newness of the players and coaches, but missed assignments, tackling, penalties, really right down the list when you say, oh, these are all the things that good football teams do, or teams that are going to compete for a national championship. And this is a team that needs to do these things or is going to fall short. And, you know, Michigan's got a lot of those things that they have to cover. Now, they played Texas, and you can say whether they got exposed or, you know, they ran into a buzzsaw. They wanted to get back and run the ball today, and that's going to be the one thing that Sharon Moore and company are going to hang their hat on. And if you're a hopeful Michigan fan, you are going to as well. Now, you know, they're not going to run for, you wouldn't think, over 300 yards against USC coming up on Saturday, but they got to do better, obviously, in the passing game. And I'm burying the lead a little bit. Michigan needs to. They've got a quarterback issue, and we can walk through all 3 of those interceptions. The first one by Davis Warren, where he threw off the back of his foot and Loveland was going down the field. It looked terrible. Donovan Edwards took responsibility. He was supposed to get a block in there, but you know, there were 3 guys pouring in on Warren there. That's not all on Donovan Edwards. It was a missed assignment up front. You have to look at it. But as a quarterback, you can't be throwing off your back foot. I know these guys in the pros do it now, but, you know, Davis Warren's not in the pros. Back footing, throwing blind, you know, a lot of times that's going to result in an interception, and that's exactly what happened. Now, the second one, he had such a clean pocket, and he's standing in there, and he has all the time, and he overshoots his target. And if you look, you can see that his arm gets hit. Quarterback is such a difficult position to play. You see the great ones. How often are there passes getting tipped at the line or their arms getting hit. They know how to maneuver around. That's just part of it. So, yeah, okay, his arm did get hit and he overshot his target. But then when you have two, how you play the rest of the game to see the third pick where he had a lot of time and he was sitting in there and he overshoots his target. Amarian Walker fell down, but that was the worst out of all of them, that when you come down to it, and he had to get benched. And the thing is, when Orji came in his first drive, yeah, they ran a lot, but he got down there and he threw that little dump off to Hogan Hansen for the touchdown. And, you know, he, up to that point, he had thrown 2 passes this season. The first one in the opener to Donovan Edwards, very similar, him leaking out and, you know, just nice touch, nice short touchdown. And it was the same thing with Hansen. That's encouraging. That's encouraging. But the second drive was a 4 and out, and Orji had his pass batted down at the line. Again, as a quarterback, you have to find your throwing lanes and be able to move the team, and he wasn't able to do that in the second series. And then his third series, the one that you wonder about with Orji, we've all wondered, you know, how accurate can he be throwing the ball? Can he push the ball down the field? He's in the perfect spot. You know, Sharon Moore after the game said they wanted to give him that shot to work on his confidence. Well, he is on a first down of that third series, first play. He's standing in the pocket, and he has all day great protection, and then he's got Fred Moore running wide open, and he overshoots him by 5 yards. You're watching that, and everybody, whoa, and then you take the big breath when he misses it, and you couple that with the first game when he buried that one in the ground, and you have to wonder if Alex Orji can play quarterback at the college level. They've got an issue here when you say, well, they got a quarterback controversy. When you say you have 2, you don't have none. This is the biggest thing when it comes to Michigan right now is the quarterback play. And say, well, I would go with Orji on Saturday. Fine. Maybe they will go with Orji, but am I expecting Orji to come in and be able to be proficient in moving this team? Unless they're just going to run it the majority of the time, probably not. It'd be hard. I don't know. Maybe you have the confidence if it would be Orji, and you say, look, it's more about, you know, who you're more concerned about. You know, Orji hasn't turned it over, so maybe you do give him his shot there. That's the way I'm feeling right now. I would give Orji his shot. I know it's hard to take out the 3 picks. It is difficult to do. You did see Warren throwing that football and look pretty good. Some of those connections that he had with Fred Moore, especially in the first half. But, you know, oh, yeah, but what about the 3 interceptions? He can't do that. It's a tough spot if you're Sharon Moore. You go with the guy that won the job and can obviously throw better and get you some things going in the passing game, or you go with Orji, who was supposedly neck and neck, you know, spilling into opening week with the competition, but a guy that we haven't seen be able to, besides the 2 nice little dump off passes that went for touchdowns, we haven't seen Orji look like a legitimate Division I quarterback, one that can actually throw a forward pass downfield. So that's a quandary. That's a tough spot. Michigan with this quarterback issue. It's number 1. And even if, you know, if you're a Michigan fan, you look at it, you say, well, you know, yeah, now it's going to hit the fan. You're going to see what it's all about with USC. And in Colston Loveland, you lose your top offensive weapon. That's not good. Who knows? I mean, he went out in the last series with the shoulder, the left shoulder. I thought left arm. I don't know if it was a shoulder. That's me guessing at it. And then he came back, and then in the first series, I think it was the first play, he re-injures it. And so, you know, your guess, certainly if he'll try to go against USC, but the other 2 injuries, the Rayshon Benny and Miles Hinton, Sharon Moore said after the game, he talked about cramps with both of those guys. That's a good sign. obviously about those guys' availability when it comes down to playing this Saturday against the Trojans. Just me sitting here and guessing on the injury report, I would say both of those guys would be available for Michigan. Loveland would be in the questionable tag right now. Who knows? And, Sunday's a big day for Loveland going through to see, after he goes through whatever MRI, if it's can he play with the discomfort, whatever it is, when it comes down to that. So, so they've got the big issue with the quarterback, but then I said, you see all the stuff from last year and what a championship team can do. They need to get better on both sides of the ball with penalties, with tackling, and with missed assignments. And Jake Butt, who called the game on TV, Butt had the access, the former Wolverine, with the coaches. He's mentioning that he talked with Tony Alford, the running back coach, and how they really worked on, talked about breaking tackles. And you did see that. But he mentioned when he was talking with Wink, and Wink is front and center, especially this week against USC, because the defense is going to have to carry Michigan if they're going to have a shot in the Big Ten to compete for the conference title. It's going to be on this defense. And in the Wink, you could tell he was saying to Butt that it was mental. And they said that there was some lack of communication in the game against Texas. And then in this game, you look at it, there were some good things defensively, but also the ability of the opponents right now. One game you say, there was that penalty could have gone either way. There've been a few, from TJ Guy to DJ Moore to who was the guy that got a penalty. Dominic Nichols, also Hansen. These late hits, these unsported. Cujo had one out of bounds. The late hits on the quarterback, and then just overall the backups. You're saying, well, you want to rotate and get freshness in on defense. They've had a lot of different guys come in there, but these guys in this game, the backups really got worked over by Arkansas State. That's a little bit concerning. So the test against USC, they go in, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of people say, oh yeah, they're just going to clean that up and they're going to come out. I don't know if USC, are they some juggernaut? But Michigan right now, they've got a lot of issues. They've got a lot of things that they've got to turn around if they're going to be competitive against USC in this game. That's how it looks. A lot of times you hear the players saying, well, it's about us, and it is about them. They got a lot of things that they need to do if they are going to come out and win the game against USC. And yeah, quarterbacks, number one, offensive line, picking up blitzes, protection with the running backs, that would be in there as well. If they don't have Colston Loveland, it was nice to see Hogan Hansen getting involved, and Marlon Klein right after Loveland went down as well. They've got some depth there at tight end, but none of those guys are Colston Loveland. So, who knows what it comes down to with that. But Khalil Mullings looked great. How much was at Arkansas State? How much was it Khalil Mullings saying, look, I'm going to run guys over and break tackles and keep my head up and go for 10 a clip? Because he looked fabulous. And I would say the same thing for Donovan Edwards. That was the hardest running I've ever seen from Donovan Edwards. So that tandem, that's something that you hang your hat on if you're a Michigan fan. Can they pulverize, tenderize that defensive front for USC? And can Michigan run to victory and play complementary football with their defense and special teams? Doman's got to punt better. We didn't see Zavada against his old team, but that's going to be the recipe against USC. But we know that the Trojans, what they do the best is that they throw the ball. And at Michigan, I'm surprised Texas didn't go at Will Johnson at all, but Fresno State certainly did. I know it cost them at the end. And Arkansas State, they were willing to throw right at Will Johnson as well. That's weird to me. Texas, again, didn't. So USC, are they going to play the Texas game and attack Jair Hill? Are they going to attack Amir Hall? Whoever is going to be the corners over there, Pollard. Miles Pollard came in as a backup. the pass defense with Michigan and just overall the coordination with that side of the ball, it needs to be, I know Wink knows this, you know it, Moore knows it. That needs to be, a lot of people talking about what's going to be the identity. The identity, if Michigan is going to have a successful season from here, is going to be the defense leading the way. And it's not going to be allowing the other teams to pick up these gigantic, long, third down conversions. Just over and over, too many third down conversions. That was an issue against Arkansas State. That was an issue against Texas. And a lot of it, I know Jake Butt said it, I think on the first series or second series, he's like, if you'd have told me that Michigan was going to be, I'll paraphrase it, a sloppy tackling team that committed a lot of penalties, I would have thought you were lying. That's what they've been doing. So can they get that headed in the right direction with the coordination of the defense? We're going to find out against USC. So that's where I'm at. The positives, again, coming out of this game, getting the victory, is that Michigan ran the ball for over 300 yards, and Mullings had the big runs, and he was breaking tackles, and Donovan Edwards ran hard too. Those are good things. And Ben Hall is running back 3. He looked good in the limited time that he was in there, but Fred Moore had a good first half and was available. Klein and Hansen stepped up in the absence of Loveland. Hillman looks pretty good as a rotational piece in there. Wherever he's going to come in, he flashes. When he's out there as a backup, Brandon Hillman shows up on TV. He's in the right spot. He's going downhill at receivers, and he's popping them. You could tell that guy is a player. Kenneth Grant looked good in this game, especially early on. And then Iwunnah, I would say, also looked pretty good in a couple plays that jumped out in the first half watching the Michigan defense. So we know about the concerns. There are some of the positives. That's where I'm sitting, and that's what I see. Let's look through some of the feedback and see what the people are saying about Michigan. And WW says, at this point, I'm just here for the ride. Never turning on my team, but there's definitely a lot of things more than concerning with the coaching. It's fair. Wherever you want to go, I think last week after the Texas game was a time to be frustrated and, I don't know, cry maybe about, I would say that, that would have been where most Michigan fans were. And then I think the game against Arkansas State, it was more of a reality check. Like, okay, this is not a Michigan defense that's going to be better than last year's defense that is just rock solid and that they can lean on. So they're a question mark. And so that's going to have a lot to do with an entirely new defensive staff and those players. The depth, I'm concerned about that. The overall, they look like they were in better position, but they weren't in very good position last week. So the defense, that's big. And obviously with the quarterback situation, I hate to say this, but I thought about it when I watched the game. I think the two quarterbacks that played for Arkansas State are better than the two Michigan quarterbacks. Like if you could trade the southpaw that came in late with the starter for the Red Wolves, they look like they're better quarterbacks than Orji and Warren. Now you say, wow, that's a big indictment on. Well, yeah, I mean, that is. It's the quarterback position is a big indictment. I understand that Michigan has their culture, and Sharon Moore, along with Kirk Campbell during the spring, said, yeah, we can work with these guys. We'll pull out the best from them. They've had 3 games, and they've not been able to do that. Neither Orji or Warren look like they should be playing quarterback for a Big Ten team, certainly one that wants to finish above 500. That's a fact. I know it's harsh, but it's 3 games, and that goes to the QBs, obviously, but it goes to the coaches. And as much as we've looked at that transfer portal and talked about it, and, Tuttle got hurt, they couldn't predict that, but that they thought Alex Orji had something to be a quarterback for Michigan. And the same thing with Warren was a miscalculation. And that's on them. And it's the biggest piece out of anything. And, you say, oh, they're failures. Oh, through 3 games, it just doesn't look good with the quarterback situation. And yeah, they got a late start, and Harbaugh, had different things going on and from the start, but then they had all of spring, and I was not at any of those 15 practices. But boy, I mean, to think like, oh yeah, we're going to ride with these guys when we could go out. Like I said, could they, could they have picked up the 2 guys from Arkansas State and dropped them in there? Because I would make that trade right now, and that's easy. After 3 games to say I would make that trade, but I don't think anybody was thinking about the Red Wolves quarterbacks. They weren't on anybody's radar. So that I hear what you're saying, WWP. Here's Aaron, who says there is confusion and chaos. Too much thinking. Coaches need to quit being too clever. I agree with that, Aaron. When you're a good football team, you're in your spot and you're just playing. There was an old saying in baseball, Jim Price, the late color analyst for the Tigers, used to say, and he would say, Dan, what did I say about thinking? And Dan would always say, Dan Dickerson, the play-by-play guy, don't think. You have to just go out there and play. You can't be, oh, what am I thinking here? What am I doing here? You need to go out there, and that's from the coaches, and that's the players all together. That's a big thing. But yeah, with the confusion, you're saying too much thinking. I'm with you. Piano music. Orji and the running game is the answer. Could be if you had to ask me today, and we're on a Sunday live right now, is that would be my selection as well. But I don't feel great about it from what I've seen with Alex Orji. And if Orji, Michigan's going to be at home, and having 110,000 behind you is great. But Michigan, sure, they come out like they did the first drive for Orji. What do they have? 6, 7, 8 runs? Oh, something like that. It was a lot of runs, just all runs. Mullings, great. Dono. And then the little pass, which was nice. And that's what you say, boy, if they can just do that. And really going back to 2021 from Haskins against Penn State, when they had the lightning bolt strike with Alls that made the big play. The 5-6 plays before that, run. How many times did they do that with Blake Corum? Run. Then they hit the pass. They even did it in the first game with the best drive that they had, answering that touchdown against Fresno State. They came out, there was a bunch of runs, and even Orji came in there and had a run, and then Davis Warren hit Colston Loveland. That's what I think they lean on, and that's where I think they go. But my point to that, piano music, is that at some point, Orji is going to have to make some plays in the passing game. And it's hard to feel, I don't know, optimistic. It's hard to feel good about him being able to put the ball in the air on some kind of consistent basis. So can they just run it all the time and then get down there? He's got to be better than what he's shown. How could he even have been in the mix if he wasn't? And he just had the overshoot and the one buried into the ground. It's so deflating to watch. The air is going to go out of the stadium. Here's my point. Orji comes out there, and I think that's going to be the call too. But when he is called upon this next throw, he needs to go out there and not be thinking about it. He's just got to make plays, and it's got to be natural for him. If he's squeezing that ball too hard, running around, and he buries another one or overshoots it or, turns it over, whew, that's going to be rough. Let's take some more. Jamyon. Got to stop making excuses for Warren. He has a good story, but this isn't a movie. He isn't a starting Power 5 quarterback. Yeah, you can't turn the ball over like that. So what else can you say? He knows that. I know that. Everybody knows it. And it's not really about his past. It's about staying in the moment and what has he done right now. He's thrown the ball to the other team. And sure, quarterbacks have all kinds of things where an elbow gets hit. They don't have the protection, and, they're trying to make plays. It's a very difficult position to play. But yeah, the first and third one, to me, there's no excuses for those. It's great that Edwards tried to take the blame for it, or the offensive line. Certainly they, were a sieve there. whatever it almost looked like a screen, the way the guys were leaking in on them. I don't know, but you got to eat the ball there. You can't be throwing blind the ball up into the air off your back foot. If you're Davis Warren. Campbell bears some responsibility. Obviously, I'm with you on that. Here's some ideas on how to fix cramping. Yeah, I know. Pickle juice, magnesium, rub things on the bottom of your feet. I've heard all of the different, IV fluids, whatever else. Water, Gatorade. It happens around football this time of year. You see a lot of that. I think it's good that, I don't say it's good. It's good when it wasn't, it was a knee for hitting. No, cramps. Cramps for both him and Rayshawn. JW. Offense needs to regress to the Penn State game plan. Put the big boys on the field and run it 60 times and pray. I think if we're in the meeting rooms right now, JW, I think that's going to be the game plan against USC. I can't think that it's going to be, oh, let's just roll with Warren. Let's cut the turnovers down, but let's let it fly. No, it's Michigan is going to lean on their guys, hat on hat, pulverize USC. If we hadn't watched USC play against LSU, we did. We watched them play, and the defense looked really good. They were tackling in space. But the previous 3-4 years, now it's a different team, and that's why, they looked so much more formidable. But USC was playing patty cake and two-hand touch for the last few years. And you say, oh, Michigan's going to grind them out. We're going to see just how the different players and the different coordinator and Michigan's identity, everything about Michigan football is about that offensive line and being able to run the ball and smash you in the face and wear you down and take over the game that way. You're right, JW. That's the game plan. How effective they're going to be, that's, we'll have all kinds of different things. There'll be a lot of focus on the quarterbacks with good reason. The defense has to take a gigantic step forward and be the identity. People keep searching for the identity. Michigan's going to run the ball every time against USC. I'll be surprised if they throw more than 10 passes. I'm not sure they should throw more than 10 passes. Billy's agreeing. You can win games like that in the Big Ten, but when you play a spread offense, you won't be able to hang with them running the ball. Well, it depends how effective you are at running the ball. And Aaron says these coaches have that stubbornness. I don't know. I was going to say it's a fine line between stubbornness and belief. Stubbornness, what? To stay with the quarterback. Stubbornness to stay with the run. Stubbornness to play a certain defense if you're Wink and if you really believe in it. The whole thing about Wink needs to do what he really believes in. Is he, when you shift gears, like for me, it would be easy if I was talking to Wink right now. I'd say, Wink, why don't you just run the defense that they were running last year? It was really good. It was really effective. They did a hell of a job. Why not? Even though you drew this whole defense up, why not take everything that you believe in and throw it out the window and do what the guys did last year? Just duplicate it. Everything that they did. You're able to talk with Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter came in the spring. He talked to Wink. They shared notes. I know both of those guys have their hands full. McDonald now, the head coach with Seattle. But why not do that? That would be my thing. And if I was down and the next time I am down at a news conference and Wink's there, that would be my question to him. Wink, why not just do everything that they were doing the last 3 years? Now you'd say, why? Wink would say something like, you don't know anything about football. Everything changes every year. I got to do what I believe in. I think that's what he would say at some point. I got to do what I believe in. But yeah, you got to adjust. You got to do all that kind of stuff. And we'll take a few more. Rico says, why would you put Loveland back out there after we clearly saw that he had a shoulder? Well, because it's football. And there is the point. If you get cleared, Loveland went in to the locker room. He walked in there And at halftime, the doctor looked at him, and let's just say it was like they said it was a separation. And yeah, it hurt. But Loveland said, I can play. I want to give it a go. You're going to say, no, we've got Arkansas State right where we want them. We don't need Loveland. Let's put you on the shelf. It goes back to football. When he gets hurt on the first play of the second half, you're like, oh, man, I wish we should have just held him out. These guys play with one leg dragging behind them. If they can get clear, just like, I know it's going to be all the talk today. It's been the talk since Thursday. Tua should never play again. Tua wants to play football. Tua is going to play football. Colston Loveland wants to play football. And if the doctors can go in there and say, hey, you're just dealing with a pain issue here. I know after the fact, talk to football players. But I hear you. Why in God's name? Because it's football. That's my answer for you. Even though if it doesn't sound very good, Rico, I'll admit it. Doesn't sound very good. But I hear you. I'm just, tackling this in real time. Ian, great to see the run game step up a bit, but they did it against the teams who basically rank last in every defensive rushing statistic. LOL. That's a well-placed LOL. The good news, I went through the good news. Michigan ran the ball for over 300 yards. Arkansas State's the worst. Yeah, so let's see them unleash this kind of running game. The one part about it, Donovan Edwards is very interesting. Was it last game? Yeah, it was against Texas because it was Gus and Joel. Gus was saying, and obviously you could tell when these guys talk to Michigan coaches and they're talking with people when they just say things. It was the first series, I think, Gus Johnson was saying, Joel, Donovan Edwards really has to be more patient and setting up his blocks. And then this game, the narrative from the you could tell that the pregame bullet points that the coaches wanted to get over to Jake Butt is that Michigan, the running backs, they're going back to the basics, but they need to break tackles. What did they say? They only broke 2 tackles against Texas, and then they were breaking tackles left and right. But they did run really hard behind their pads, and they did break tackles. If I'm going to be sure, you got to put it into place. I don't know if they're going to be able to run for over 300 yards against USC, but I think they're going to try. If you say, what does Michigan have going for them? Yeah, it was against Arkansas State, but they look good doing it. And with the way the quarterbacks are playing, and the way the defense is playing, that's what they've got to do. Michigan's got to run the ball almost every time. Again, throwing it is not something that they're good at. And I know that doesn't bode well for the rest of the season. Look, I'm recalibrating where I'm at. I've watched 3 games now. And I'm not talking about going to the college football playoff. That's the goal. Winning the Big Ten. That's the goal. Beating Ohio State. Beat your rivals. Beat USC. I always beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl over the years. Beat them. But we also have to say what we have seen out there. In Michigan, they don't have a quarterback. I don't know why I keep saying it. Everybody knows that. So I'm not going to say it again. That's what is coming down the pike here. Sorry. Couple more. Jamyon, I love the name. The lateness of the staff turnover following the natty. Yeah, that's a factor. Darius, they won't let Orji throw it. I still don't know if Orji can't do better than Warren. Well, what we have seen from Orji is that he's had the 2 nice little dump off passes for touchdowns in the opener to Donovan Edwards and against the Red Wolves to Hogan Hansen. Beautiful. Nice touch, nice play. It's almost the exact same. In between there of the throws, he had one on that second series. He kind of dropped down and shot one out there. Sidearm. I don't like that. That's what the quarterbacks do now. If you're great and all of that, and you want to start throwing from different platforms, I'm all right, but not that great. But they tried to give him the confidence in that third series, gave him beautiful protection. He had a receiver downfield. I mean, that was taking candy from a baby. That's what every quarterback's dream is. Let me stand back in the pocket, throw it as far as I can to a wide open receiver. I would feel way different right now. I would feel so much different if Alex Orji threw the whatever that was, 60, 70-yard touchdown pass to Fred Moore. Oh, yeah, downfield, Pat, it's everything. Look at his confidence. What the confidence, and even Sharon Moore said it, was he right on the field afterwards with Brooke Fletcher. Shout out to Brooke. She did a good job down there on the field asking the questions to Sharon Moore. Kind of questions, all the questions that I want asked, Fletcher asked him. Good job by her. Sharon Moore afterwards. We wanted to give him confidence by throwing that ball. So when it doesn't happen, yeah, the confidence not so hot. Keegan's talking about let's pray for Tuttle. Well, I've seen the first two guys. I don't know. Tuttle's got to be now in the mix. I know it's a merry-go-round at quarterback is a frustrating thing to handle for everyone. But yeah, Tuttle. Last week, Sharon Moore said he's good to go. Quote: "He's good to go, ready to roll now." And so you weren't just going to hand him the starting job. Should he have been taken over the? He's just coming back. Didn't have spring. I don't know how much he played in fall camp. Not very much, but so he's now throwing. But is a Tuttle just getting back up and getting up to running the offense? As he get some first team snaps? I can understand it now. I don't think starting him, can he do some things in practice that you would even then put him into the mix? Yes. I think he could do some of that. Whew. Let's start the Orji thing. Yeah, well, I mean, Orji, like I said right now, I would start Alex Orji against USC, and I would run the ball every time. Michigan needs to go after Drinkwitz after the season because this season is a disaster. Yeah, well, that ship has sailed. If there was a short list of coaches after Harbaugh left, Drinkwitz was on that list. Sharon Moore is going to get whether, like you're talking about the worst case scenario, a 3-9 season. Even Rich Rod got 3 years. And Rich Rod was the antithesis of a Michigan man. And he got 3 years. Sharon Moore is getting 3 years. So, talking about going after Drinkwitz and everything, it's not happening. Like, you would want to do it, and it's fun to talk about. I guess fun to talk about. It's like a sports talk thing. Hey, let's get a coaching search go. Sharon Moore's coached 3 games. They're not, unless there's some off the field type situation. I mean, so you guys know that. Talking about off the field situations. But I do get it a little bit, talking about what you're talking about here. Nayon, 20. Michigan should go after the Missouri head coach. Here's more from that. Jeff is making a big-time prediction for USC. John's excited. It's great to see Smash the Numbers telling me let's get to 5,000. There are a lot of new people watching this potentially on a Sunday morning. We usually go live right after the game. We have all now going into the 4th year here on the Maize and Blue Review at a wedding yesterday, so it didn't happen. So there are going to be some new people catching this on Sunday morning. Subscribe to the podcast. I know you always hear the podcasters. Subscribe, rate, and follow. Yeah, I'm trying to get to 5K. I would love to get to 5K by the Washington game so I can throw my big party and watch football with you guys. Anybody that's in the area will meet up and watch that Washington game. Yeah, would I like to fly everybody out to Washington and have you out on a boat and eating tuna from right down and salmon and shrimp cocktails before we go into the game? Yeah, but we can replicate that. So imitation crab or something, and, you know, have some fun watching Michigan, Washington, a rematch of the national championship game. So yeah, let's get you to 5,000. Hey, here's part of the party. KB is we're going to take his $5 and put it into the treasure trove, and that's going out to the party, hopefully for Washington. Now let's see what the King Bronco has to say. Now, I liked Breaking Bad, and I've watched it 2 times. And I also watched Better Call Saul 2 times all the way through. It's a hell of a lot of TV to watch, but I've done it. It's great. I don't get the King Bronco reference, though, should I? Walter White style. Maybe that's your name, and you're just bringing in Walter White? All right. Time for the Michigan media to admit you all either lie or don't know ball. Orji is the next Cam Newton. The defense is better. Michigan beat is clueless. Now, look, what I would say is that if you wanted to lump all Michigan media together, I think you probably had a point. I didn't see anyone talking about Orji being the next Cam Newton, but, you know, there's whoever. You're talking maybe about some of our competitors that were, you know, patting Michigan on the back. If you listen to me, I talked to at least 3 or 4 people that went to practice. None of them wanted to talk about the quarterback position. And the ones that did to me said that get ready for 2 quarterbacks to be playing this year, which to me was code that Alex Orji wasn't really throwing the ball in spring practice. One other said Michigan will be going they talked about the injury to Tuttle, which I can, you know, reveal now, and then said Michigan would definitely be going into the transfer portal, all of which I either relayed on the podcast that I do or to Josh Henschke, who runs the Maize and Blue Review. Now, was there a willingness after the national championship to give Michigan the benefit of the doubt this year about their defense and winning 10 games and being competitive in the Big Ten? I would say yes. And I would say that I am guilty if it was coming down to being overly optimistic. I don't think that people wanted to hear in the spring and summer, like, oh, they've got problems, or, you know, everything had been going so well. And you could say that's what your job is, to tell people to, you know, to hit it. And I think you've got a point there. But lumping us all together, I mean, there's some, as much as I would say that I think I did, and even if you wanted to say, well, you sounded a little bit like a homer at times, I've shifted over, you know, the Maize and Blue Review. People want that. That's what people want. You could say that you want other things, KB. Most of my competitors, a lot of them are very successful and they're making good money. Just rolling out the Maize and Blue carpet, you know, talking about grabbing the pom-poms in your hand and waving them. It's been great business for them. It's really worked. Woo, Michigan, everything Michigan does. So I don't know what you're asking for. You want some kind of hard-hitting, tell it like it is, and that's not what Michigan fans want. Now, I would encourage everyone to listen to what you're saying and take a dose of reality. You know, any of the pom-pom waving, you don't have to have the pom-pom. So it depends who you're talking about. At this point right now, the panic button for me is right out in front of me. I said that I wasn't going to push it till after the USC game, but the panic button was sitting right in front of me during the Arkansas State game. And I thought, why not just go ahead and hit it right now? Because the quarterbacks, that's a total panic situation. But I didn't press it. But me telling you that the 2 quarterbacks for Arkansas State, that I would trade them for the Michigan room right now, is a pretty big indictment. Is there anyone else out there that is rolling around with that? So, you know, lumping us all in, it's, you know, KB, I'm glad you gave us the $5 here for the party. But I'll tell you this, I am not going to be wearing a Michigan hat at that party, and we're not going to sing the victors before the game. We'll watch the game and enjoy it. I don't know. I think most of the Michigan media, if I was going to lump them all in, they're way up here where they think they're on the team. They're part of the team. And then there's, straight shooters wherever you want it. I feel like I vacillate a little bit, but I'm kind of more in the middle when it comes down to those. All right, a couple more. And then KB has come back. He says, great points. He's mad. I get that. Not winning. He's still mad. Yeah. Me too. John, I think, did a 5-hour show on Michigan. Here's old timer 56. Sometimes we're going to go with the old timer. Orji can throw. He needs some more game experience and live throws. We need to encourage him with positive vibes. Look at the bright side. 2 TDs, 0 picks. That's a good start. Yeah, I think that's a good idea as a Michigan fan. I think he should start. And so, yeah, why not get behind him and see how he does against USC? Now, KB saying we can't run the ball. Let's see. Maybe they can. If they can't run the ball, then this season I'm not rolling out any of the 3-9 gallows or anything like that. But if they can't run the ball, this I don't even want to say it. The 7-5. That'll be staring you in the face. You want the truth now? Can you handle the truth, KB? If they can't run the ball, then that is staring you in the face. That's being real. Darius is saying that was Orji's first deep shot of the season. Even McCarthy used to miss those. McCarthy didn't hit any deep shots in that first year in 21 where he just came in sparingly here. He did throw that crazy across the field one that went for like 50, 60 yards, but it wasn't until the Ohio State game in 22, the last game of the regular season 2 years ago, that he finally, and he hit Kojo and it went for whatever, 75 yards, but then he started to unleash the downfield passing game. Now look, against Illinois, he threw one that should have been caught. I think Darius Clemens, it was right there. He put it right on him. That would have been encouraging, but it really wasn't until the Ohio State game till he started that he found his groove. And last year he was I say pretty awesome. I mean, yeah, I think we all believe. And here's Ferris. He has been consistent. He believes that Alex Orji can complete a forward pass. Give him the reps. Let's see it. KB's typing it all caps now. Look, I know you're mad. Just think where you were after the game. DL's talking about Tuttle, but yeah, he lost his starting gig to Basilak. Yeah, well, hey, look, I think it's you're a desperate situation, and sometimes I would say this, and this is going back to KB, who didn't like to hear the offseason reports, but the offseason reports that I was getting from some of those practices is that Tuttle would be likely the starting quarterback. Davis Warren wasn't mentioned. One guy was at practice and boy, Warren threw a great deep ball. But nobody was talking about, Davis Warren. It wasn't. It was all Orji and probably Tuttle. So I know. I know you don't like those practice reports. You're tired of the Michigan. Yeah, look, I'm not tired. I like the Michigan man stuff. I know people lean on it too much. I think it's the opponents and your rivals who kind of mock the Michigan man thing. And so I think you probably listen to too much sports talk if you can do that. I mean, I love sports talk myself, but a Michigan man thing is a great thing too. There's nothing to be tired about. It's a nice thing. Michigan man thing is it's good, I think. Johnny's not on the Tuttle bandwagon. Either is KB's not on. I mean, I don't even know if I'm on any bandwagon thing either. What's the latest on yours? You know, it'd be nice to have Arch Manning coming in. You know, you have the #1 overall recruit from Rivals from 2021 and Quinn Ewers, the Dr. Pepper star. He goes out with an injury, and you bring in the 23 #1 player overall in Arch Manning, and he throws 4 touchdowns. Pretty nice. Okay. Yeah, well, congratulations to Julia. Yeah, nobody was talking about that. I don't know who was saying that, where it was at. John wants to give Orji a shot unless Tuttle's ready to go. Yeah, as I sit here, it wasn't like I talked to anybody or talked to Sharon Moore. I was taking a look at what I saw. Going back to Davis Warren is not something that I would do. I think you do have to give Orji the shot. Ferris. Orji, he's talking about Orji's passer rating at 181, then 23 McCarthy. He's talking about the sample size. Yes, we're talking about 2 games, 3 games with Orji compared to so yeah, I mean I like the numbers, Ferris, but I don't like them that much. I am guilty with this. Barham was a fraud with the hype. Yeah, I would say that I was guilty. I was guilty without watching him. You know, I rewatched the Maryland game and he picked off JJ at the end of the half, but he looked good at practice running around out there. So, and I would say that he is not, you know, looking like some All-American on defense. I think that is fair, and I'm guilty of that. So when you do, if you want to put me as a part of the Homer Michigan media side, a little strong, or just like, I mean, I got caught up in the Barham hype. I did. I got caught up in the Priebe hype too, and the Priebe on that was it the first pick. Him and Hinton, they look like they have a hard time picking up some of those blitzes. I mean, the pressure was coming right over from those guys. Those guys, and it takes, I know it takes time when you're an offensive lineman. Priebe and Hinton, they have not worked. That's why thinking that these guys, I know it was Michigan, it's the culture, that they're going to replace the whole offensive line, but these guys are just going to come out and smash. It takes time to be able to figure out and work with somebody to pass guys off, and USC is going to be overloading. You know, the one thing, sure enough, the quarterbacks, I can continue like everybody else. It's not piling on. I mean, I say it's a fact, but it's just obvious to everybody what we've seen with the 2 quarterbacks. The offensive line in pass protection has been, you know, if I just give them an overall grade, you know, below passing, below, I don't know, a D, without looking and charting and everything else. It's just like these guys, the left side's supposed to be Michigan's best side, and they haven't been able to handle these overloads or, you know, the guys late blitzing. It'll be interesting to see what the PFF scores are out there. I mean, we understand Link was going to struggle with some penalties and some pressures, and they're having a hard time on the offensive line. And this was the left side. The right side with Link, they had 3 guys over there competing, and then Link has been the best one. They've just gone with him. That doesn't make me feel very good about the competition or the guys that were behind him. They continue to rotate at center. Quarterback and offensive line, the red flags go up when you're rotating them, and when you have when you get into the regular season and they continue to do that. history suggests that that's going to be an issue. A lot of people are like, oh, that just means we have great depth. Yeah, I'll put that one on the fans as much as anyone. I don't know how many of the media were like, oh yeah, this means they got great depth. No, a lot of the fans were like, oh yeah, you kidding me? They got Gentry and Jones and Link. That means great things for this Michigan offensive line. Oh yeah. Raheem Anderson, Greg Crippen, and now GIUDICE. Now they got 3 guys at center. That's great news. No, that has not been great news. It's been the opposite. It could be great news, or it could mean that they don't have a center or a right tackle or a quarterback. And that's what it looks like through 3 games. It looks like, without, I don't know, calling anybody's names, this is just calling it out. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a center, and they don't have a right tackle. That's tough if you want to compete for a championship, make the college football playoff. Playoff right now? I know, I feel like playoff. I'm talking about just staying within 10 points of USC. You don't have a legit right tackle or center or quarterback, and I'm talking about, staying within 10 of USC. I don't know. We're going to find out how bad it is. But the part that they had, oh yeah, it is great competition. No, this was not a steel on steel type of situation. I think there was a reason that Jim Harbaugh the last 2 years hit the transfer portal for a center. Not once, but twice. He didn't bring in 1 tackle. He brought in multiple tackles. And I can't solve everything, but again, coming back to the calculations of this staff who was able to go through a full spring, and they were like, we're going to go with what we have at quarterback. It's better than what's out there. That doesn't seem like a great move right now. I think that's an obvious thing to say. Not everybody might be saying that, but it seems pretty obvious. And I would say the same thing at center, which is a surprise, and the same thing at right tackle, which is also a surprise. Actually, all 3, the level of play that we have seen performance-wise in the first 3 games from the center, from the right tackle, and from the quarterback. Quarterback's the easiest one for all of us, throwing picks, back foot, all those kind of things. So it's what we do. You get a great quarterback, it can help you out with a lot of ills and all of that. But when the quarterback's part of the problem and the offensive line, when that's where Michigan, that's their bread and butter, that's why they're having the problem. So now I'll just go into the USC game, and it's not like I need to, pat anybody on the back or anything else, but, this is going to be the game that we're going to find out if this is a season that, boy, the coaches, and look how everybody was thinking about heading into the Big Ten season. Look at what they were able to do. They found something. The defense stepped up. The running game stepped up. They beat USC. It'll be, it's going to feel a lot different, because then they're going to have a chance to get some momentum, beat USC. I think they can get the little brown jug. They can go to Washington and have success out there at the West Coast. But then, you got Illinois and Michigan State. I think they're beatable. I don't know. Oregon bounced back. They look pretty good yesterday against Oregon State. I don't know. Am I just chalking that one? I'm right now. I've just been doing it, just chalking up W's, chalk WW. USC is the fork in the road that we're all looking at. And there was always going to be an overreaction with what happened against Texas, win or lose. That's what we demand. I mean, KP was talking about the media. Everybody wants you to overreact. Overreact! Well, now the USC game's not really an overreaction game. The USC game, if Michigan is able to win, then they are on, hey, they have weathered an early storm, and now they can, we get rolling a little bit. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. They get worked over against USC, I'm not rolling out any 3 and 9s, but the 7 and 5, and that stuff feels like it could be a reality. Again, you don't have an answer at quarterback, and you're juggling your center, and you don't seem like you have any answers out at right tackle, and in your defense, they got communication issues. They don't seem like they're aligned properly. They're missing assignments, and they're committing tons of penalties. I mean, facts are facts when you look at them. Some people just like to look at the numbers. Look at that 3rd down conversion, that first drive. There's another third down. Late hit out of bounds. Woo! None of it. Okay. Let's say that's going to do it. I wanted to sit in here and give you a nice hour. Look up. It's been an hour. So thanks so much for joining us. Be back tomorrow with Jim Scarcelli, the former Wolverine. He'll work through the tape. We'll see what Scar thinks and if there's a lot to lean on with what he saw on film. He'll see it differently than me and probably most of you. So that'll be at 2 o'clock tomorrow. It's Michigan USC game week. I'll be heading down to Ann Arbor to see what Sharon Moore has to say. I think he's going to say a lot about the running game. And I don't think he's going to say anything about the quarterbacks, except we'll see. You got an update on Loveland. Hopefully there's not an update on Loveland, because usually if you get an update on a Monday, it's bad news. I don't think Sharon Moore, even if Loveland is going to get treatment all week and then give it a shot, is going to come out and say that. But if he has a shot, I think he'll just say, we'll see. If it's bad, he could say something. So I don't want to hear any. If you're a Michigan fan, you don't want to hear any update on Loveland. Again, cramps with Hinton and with Benny. Cramps, those guys were probably good to go this morning. Yeah, well, I've had a little bit of a cooling off period since yesterday, but yeah, I mean, you mad after the Texas game. Today was more, or the Arkansas State game, more of a feeling of reality. One game, it's Texas, man. That's Texas. Look what this was the Red Wolves of Arkansas State, and a lot of those issues are still out there. So it was more of it's no fun slugging down those doses of reality. Is a tough drink. And yesterday, there was a lot of chugging reality. Reality is a tough pill to swallow. And I don't think anybody wanted to swallow any reality after the Texas game. Is just angry. And angry at the media for saying, this Michigan, they're going to defend their national championship. I don't know. I can tell I'm rambling on now. So let's just say, smash that like button, subscribe. Would love to see everybody out for a big, what I'm pointing to, Washington party on the road. Let's do it. Let's get together and watch these games. Let's see how people act in the moment watching these games. I'm not going to Seattle. I'm talking about heading on around here at a local establishment in the Ann Arbor area. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. Sign up to the Maize and Blue Review by going to michigan.rivals.com. That's Michigan fun all day, all night. You don't like too much of the pom-pom? Well, this is legit analysis on what's going on with the team. Get you some recruiting in there as well. That could be a spot to go to a lot of times if you're feeling a little down. You need a little pick-me-up. A nice little Balboa commitment or something like that could be a nice little pick-me-up for the USC week. Let's see a little bit of that. Let's see a nice visitor list for the Trojans. That can help you out more than anything else. But thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk with you tomorrow. See you.